healthy postpartum needs healthy boundaries. I'm talking about here's an example. I was 3 days postpartum, and a neighbor who I'd never met before, never beyond like a smile in the street, rocked up on my front door with a baby present and wanted to come in. And it was less about me having a good boundary and more about me just being kind of shocked and appalled and like deeply not in the mood for that made it so that I didn't let her in. But I remember her being so disappointed. I was like, oh, the baby's sleeping, and I kind of wouldn't budge. I didn't invite her in, and she's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, the baby's sleeping. Like, fuck off. As much as you need support, you also need boundaries. And even with the people who are supporting you, you need to have some boundaries with them, loving boundaries. It's the person who's so happy and so excited to come and help, who maybe is thinking they'll stay all day when you actually need some time to yourself and you can't be talking to them all day and you need to have a sleep. And part of having boundaries is setting expectations. So we're going to talk about that. Before you set any boundaries, it's really important to have a think for yourself about some things and have a chat to your partner or support person about how you want to do things and what boundaries you need to have. So have a think about visitors. What do you want to do about visitors? There should not be any visitors coming to see you in hospital unless they are like, maybe the grandparents who can come for a moment, or, older siblings. But no visitors, no fucking cousins or, work friends or anything like that. It's not the time. You are deep in recovery. When you get home, seriously consider not having any visitors who are not in that tier of your inner circle visit for the first 2 weeks or so. I've already talked to you about the importance of staying in bed for 2 weeks. So you want people who will comfortably come and, sit on the bed with you and have a chat, who will see you with your boobs out, who are happy to, support you while you cry. So not randoms. And like, you shouldn't be having randoms at any point in the 6 weeks anyway. Now, when you are having visitors, think about, what expectations do you have around visitors? Do you want them to not kiss the baby? Which, yes, you don't want them to kiss the baby. You're going to have to make that clear ahead of time. Are you in the midst of a flu season? Do you need them to wash? Hopefully people know to wash their hands ahead of time, but often they don't think to and they're so excited. If you need to tell them if there's any kind of sickness or risk, if you're feeling like you've got a sniffle, please let's rain check. In the PDF workbook, I've got an email template for you which sets some ideas for expectations, but obviously, change and do what you guys want to do, but you need to actually have these conversations. So, who is going to support us? Who would make a meal for us? Who would, who could we ask to come and like vacuum the house for us? These are the things that you can have a little brainstorm about, because chances are, like when I do planning sessions with couples a lot, and I really love seeing it unfold, because I'll be like, well, who's that person for you? And they'll be like, oh, and then the partner will jump in and go, well, there's so-and-so that would do such and such. And they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. These are the sort of conversations you want them to have. Like, make it, you can either just do it on the fly or like actually make it like a date night. Now, how are we going to respond if we receive advice that's unwelcome, unwanted, uncalled for, that doesn't align with how we want to do things? You guys need to be on the same page about that sort of thing. They need to have an understanding of the boundaries too. So when you are receiving that kind of advice, I think it depends on where it's coming from. Like if it's your partner's family, it should be your partner to step in. If it's from your family, maybe you feel more comfortable saying, well, thanks, but no thanks, we're not doing that. But you don't have to be polite. I really think we have to start doing some inner work around letting go of this sense of obligation and politeness and being the good girl. This is your postpartum. It's a very important time and you need to protect it with boundaries. Talk to them about like, who are those tricky people who get under our skin and what can we, like, how can we manage them? Is there an uncle who likes to drop by unannounced and stay for 3 hours? That's someone who you need to set the boundary with during pregnancy. And you need to probably pop a note on the door. I think this starts from pregnancy, but also when the baby's born, you can make it clear in that sort of text that goes out to family, like, the baby's here and everything's good and what's going on. We're in recovery, so we're not taking visitors yet, but when we're ready, we'd love to see you. So thinking about just having that really like firm boundary, because the thing is, like, I know we get really annoyed with people when they do things that they they do things that we go, well, how could they do that, and why did they stay for 4 hours, and why did they say that shit to me, or why did whatever. But people just don't know. Like, it's not coming from a malicious place. It's just they're oblivious, unaware, and you haven't communicated what you need. So we have to take responsibility for support and boundaries. We have to do this. We can't just expect the village to turn up. We can't expect people to automatically know that they shouldn't stay for more than 45 minutes. Like, you're gonna have to tell them. That's something that partners should be the gatekeepers of as well, is like, okay, thanks so much for visiting. It's been great to have you. We really need to have a rest now. God, it was a hard night last night. It doesn't have to be mean, but people just they go, oh yeah, of course, absolutely. The other thing is, if you have tricky people who don't get the message, lie. My friends, lie. Lying is acceptable. Postpartum. What do I mean by that? So if you've got someone who just won't wrap it up, they won't wrap it up. Oh my God, honey, is today the day that we're meant to be calling into the pediatrician for the Zoom consult? Oh my gosh, yes, this should be your code, word for get these people out. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. Oh, we're meant to be on this call in 10 minutes. We're going to have to say goodbye. Those kind of lies. Or if it's that someone just won't shut up about a baby who, I'm trying to think of an example, like, you should put the baby down because you'll spoil them. Now that's bullshit, obviously, and you know that now because you've listened to my stuff about sleep and all of that kind of thing. But some people just don't want to hear it, and you don't even want to get into the argument with them. And that's when you can just say a simple, well, we're following the doctor's advice. Because people, like, I don't care if you are following the doctor's advice or not, but sometimes that's what people need to kind of hear. Otherwise, comebacks are like a simple, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. No commitment. If someone's particularly triggering or toxic, imagine that you're a grey rock. I'm a grey rock. Just imagine grey rock, nothing's penetrating. You're just a grey rock. You just don't respond. Like, you can respond, but okay, interesting. If something is an egregious, like, amount of bullshit and you're feeling a bit more spicy, say to them, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd really love to read some more about that. Do you have some evidence you could point me to? Let them scrabble for some evidence around the bullshit that they're spouting. You might find that someone is offering you advice from when they raised their babies in the 50s or the 80s or whatever. And it's hard because they mean well, and that's probably was the right advice then, because we knew less back then about certain things. And you can simply say, yeah, I know, I was actually reading about that's how things were done then, and it's really interesting. The advice has changed now, and so they say that blah, 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 whatever. Or you can simply say something just as simple as, thanks, but we're comfortable with our choice. Thanks, but we're doing what feels right for us. Thanks, but we're doing what's working. Thanks, but fuck right off. You know, whatever works for you, depending on your level of sass for the day. So that's boundaries. You need to have them. Sometimes if you're partnered up in a hetero relationship, men can be better with having boundaries. Not all men, but you know, sometimes they can be the ones who can be the good gatekeepers, and if it's their family, then they need to be having the hard conversations ahead of time. You know, is it that your mother-in-law has said, you know, well, I'll be coming to the hospital, you know, as soon as that baby's out. Then maybe it might be a gentle like, oh, can you give us 24 hours? Like, we'll let you know. Like, this is our, you know, we'll FaceTime you and we'll sort something out, because you know those first 24 hours you really need you really need to rest. So yes, just have a think about that. No visitors in hospital who aren't going to support that, and if visitors are coming in hospital in that first 2 weeks, they're staying for a very short period of time, and they're coming with food or with a job to do. So Dr. Oscar Serelak has this saying, which I think is fantastic. It's no visitors, only staff. And I really do feel like that's the right way to go about it. You don't want someone there who's sitting there having a cup of tea that you've made them and expecting you to hand over the baby. No. And just on that, you might want to think about whooping cough vaccinations. You definitely want to have a think about that. That's a conversation to have with your medical professional. But you also want to have a think about fragrance. We know that fragrance can interrupt that breastfeeding experience, because the baby is so reliant on smell at that point. So passing baby around with fragrances. Also, fragrances include a lot of endocrine disrupting chemicals, so I would just stay the fuck away from fragrances, and that goes for you and your partner too, because of the nature of, like, you know, not wanting those environmental toxins, as well as the breastfeeding association. Okay, I hope that's given you some ideas for boundaries. Go forth, set them ruthlessly, be strong. You can do this.